Tracy Sabol tonight on EWTN News Nightly. Race for the White House as Vice President Harris and former President Trump hit the campaign trail. Both candidates make remarks on abortion. Emergency evacuation. Why people are fleeing from a Russian region near the border with Ukraine. The Lord and the Rings. As the Summer Olympics wind down, a Catholic chaplain tells us his favorite moments from the Paris Games. And frequent flyer. Why next month is promising to be a busy one for the Holy Father. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight as we begin on the campaign trail. Former President Donald Trump's rally at Montana State University is expected to draw thousands of GOP supporters, while Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate campaign in Arizona as part of their tour of battleground states. This as both campaigns address the issue of abortion. White House correspondent Owen Jensen brings us that part of the story. Owen.
That's right, Tracy. Good evening to you. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris continues to blame Donald Trump and the U.S. Supreme Court for overturning Roe v. Wade. And Trump believes the issue of abortion is right back where it belongs after 52 years.
As former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris battle for votes across the country, both candidates addressing the issue of abortion. Just yesterday in Wayne, Michigan, Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, tells workers at the UAW Local 900,
and I've been saying it, and you've been hearing me say it, they will ban abortion across this country no matter what Congress says.
And earlier in Wisconsin, Vice President Harris delivered the same message.
We who believe in reproductive freedom will fight for a woman's right to choose.
And her promise to the cheering crowd?
And when I am President of the United States and when Congress passes a bill to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade, I will sign it into law.
A recent Marquette Law School poll of registered voters revealing the economy by far will be the most important issue in deciding whom to pick for president. The issue of abortion tied for third. Former President Trump weighing in on abortion from Mar-a-Lago Thursday, saying it's been brought back to the states, adding he believes in exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, and suggesting abortion will not play a major role in the campaign and the outcome in November.
I think that abortion has become much less of an issue. It's a very small, I think it's actually going to be a very small issue.
And he turns the tables on Democrats, saying they're the ones who are extreme on the issue.
The Democrats are really the radical ones on this because they're allowed to do abortion on the 8th and 9th month and even after birth.
Meanwhile, SBA Pro-Life America warning tonight that while Roe v. Wade may have been tossed out, quote, big abortion has struck back with an epidemic of abortion drug use, silent, seductive, and more dangerous than any other form of abortion, and calling the drugs, quote, an epidemic that could wipe out the pro-life victory over Roe v. Wade. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, as mentioned Thursday, the stage is set for former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris to debate on September 10th. ABC News will host the debate, which was originally slated for Trump and Biden before the president announced that he would not be seeking re-election. Trump's camp is pushing for 2 more debates in September on Fox and NBC. No word yet if those debates may happen. And for more insight, let's go now to Dr. Todd Belt, professor and director at George Washington University's Political Management Master's Program. He is also an expert on political debates. Dr. Belt, good to have you back on the show. Your thoughts on this upcoming debate and what will you be expecting?
Well, great to be with you again, and thanks for having me on. Well, this is game on. This is going to be the first one we get with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We haven't seen anything like this, and so we don't know what to expect. And the real thing about debates is that it's about expectations. It's not so much which candidate did better or worse or which scores better on a Cambridge debate scale, but really who exceeds expectations. That's oftentimes why we see these candidates try to lower expectations ahead of the debates. And this will be the first time for Kamala Harris under the real big spotlight. We saw her, of course, in 2020 when she was running, and she had that one dig against Joe Biden, we all remember, about busing. And we know what to expect from Donald Trump. So I think Kamala is really the wild card here.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know, with less than 90 days left until the election, how important do you think this debate will be, especially for Vice President Harris?
Well, I really think it's much more important for her. It's often said that a presidential debate doesn't win you the election, but it can certainly cost you the election. It's important that she doesn't necessarily need to improve upon all this bounce she's got and the increased enthusiasm. Just she has to make sure that she doesn't lose it or pop the bubble. I think that's really it. She has to make sure that people realize that she thinks that she needs to make people realize that she is a legitimate candidate, she can do the job, and she has a future vision for America.
There's also been a lot of mudslinging from both tickets so far, and while that's not unusual in races, is it an effective strategy, and do you think we'll see that play out on the debate stage?
Well, the interesting thing about mudslinging is you really have to know a little bit about the person who's the target in order for those attacks to stick. And because Harris and Waltz are somewhat, less known. Harris, of course, was vice president, but she was in the shadow of Biden. It's harder for those attacks to stick to them. We will see how this plays out in the coming months. But I think the other thing that we're going to see here is more policy information. Like you were saying, this campaign has had a ton of attacks, both from Biden when he was running and Trump, as he's always wanted to do. But I'm really looking forward to hearing what their plans for the future are for the next 4 years for the U.S.
Yeah, and how important do you think these debates are, though, to voters? And what difference does it make, if at all, in swaying public opinion, especially at this point?
Right. That's, as I mentioned earlier, it can't win you, but it can lose it for you. You can create a misstep. You can do something that people don't like, or say something that's blatantly false, and like Gerald Ford did back in '76. And that can really make you look out of touch with the American people. It's really important that you show competence. And I think that's what a lot of people will be looking for from Harris.
And quickly, before I let you go, we only have about 30 seconds left or so, but in a press conference yesterday, Trump said that he'd like to have 2 additional debates. Right. Do you think that's going to happen? And do you think it's even feasible at this point, with the election day quickly approaching?
Well, generally, we usually have 2 to 3 presidential and 1 vice presidential. I would think that Harris might want another one. I think it's possible we might get 2 presidential and 1 vice presidential. That's what I put my money on.
Okay, and we'll see what happens. Dr. Bell, always good to be with you. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks. Great to be here.
All right, now to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Russian officials have declared an emergency evacuation following a cross-border incursion by Ukrainian troops. It is Ukraine's biggest attack on Russian soil since the war began. Russian officials called for a federal-level emergency evacuation, and people are fleeing the bombing. The Kremlin says that it is sending reinforcements to the region. Meantime, Ukrainian officials say a Russian bomb struck a shopping mall, killing 11 people and wounding 44 others. And I'd like to bring in now Charles Kupchan, Senior Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and Professor of International Affairs at Georgetown University. Charles, good to be with you today. In an interview back in February, you mentioned that it may be time for Ukraine to switch from offense to defense and to work at the negotiating table. As you see Russia declaring a federal-level emergency in Kursk because of Ukraine's incursion, do you still feel that way?
I do still feel that way, and I think ultimately this is a war that is not going to end with a decisive victory by either side. It's going to end when the 2 sides are exhausted and they decide that they're better off at the negotiating table than on the battlefield. Clearly, we're not there yet, but it's conceivable to me that the Ukrainians are going into Russia, going into Kursk, as a way of setting the table for negotiations. Number one, by saying to the Russians, we're bringing the war to you, because a lot of Russians don't feel that the country's in wartime at all. The other objective may be to try to grab a hold of a chunk of Ukrainian territory, of Russian territory. So when they finally sit down at the negotiating table, they may have something to trade when it comes to getting back Ukrainian territory.
Do you think Ukraine's offense, do you think it's reached its limit?
Well, if you're talking about taking back more chunks of occupied land, I think not going to make a lot of progress there. What we're seeing on the ground are fortified, thick lines of defense being built on both sides. I don't think the Russians or the Ukrainians are going to generate the combat capability needed to break through. In terms of this offensive on Russian territory, I doubt it's going to get much further because the Russians are now flooding the zone with reserves. They're beginning to retaliate against Ukrainians on the other side of the border. So I think the Ukrainians will be hard-pressed to hold what they've already taken, and we don't even know whether they're going to try to hold it. They may pursue a strategic retreat in the coming days and use this as a way of saying we can come into Russia and we can hurt you when we want to. Again, more of a bargaining chip than a clear military objective.
I understand that you were part of a small unofficial group that met quietly with Russian officials last year, including Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Tell us why you think the U.S. approach to Russian-Ukraine conflict, why that should be two-pronged.
Well, I think that there needs to be more dialogue between the United States and Russia. This is the biggest war in Europe since World War II. It still has the potential to escalate either into a wider war or possibly a Russian decision to use a nuclear weapon. Under those circumstances, it seems to me the channels of communication should be open at the highest levels. I've been participating in various kinds of track 2 conversations mainly with Russian experts, on one occasion, as you mentioned, with the Russian foreign minister, as a means of trying to keep those channels of communication open. They're not official dialogue. There's no contact with the Biden administration, but I think it's helpful for Russians and Americans, even during these very tense times, to be in dialogue.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. We really appreciate it. Horror in Brazil as a plane carrying 61 people crashed in a fiery wreck. The airline confirmed the crash, saying the plane was headed for Sao Paulo's International Airport. Footage shows the plane drifting downward and then spiraling as it fell. No word on what caused the crash, and there were no survivors. All right, now to Venezuela, where dozens of people attended a prayer vigil for those who've been arrested amid recent demonstrations. With candles placed together to spell peace, people called for justice for the 24 people who have been killed and around 1,000 others who have been arrested since socialist leader Nicolas Maduro said that he won re-election. Protests erupted all over the South American country, saying the opposition party actually won. Is the U.S. about to go to war with Iran and its proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas? That is a question that lawmakers are pondering as tensions remain high amid Iran's expected retaliation against Israel for its recent killings of senior terrorist leaders. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with more. Eric.
Well, good evening, Tracy. As Israel braces for retaliation from Iran, diplomats are trying to avoid it escalating into a full-blown war. The U.S. has already deployed additional warplanes and ships to the eastern Mediterranean to bolster defenses around Israel. Now, the big question is, will Iran strike back? Robert Greenway from the Heritage Foundation tells me it's just a matter of time until Iran attacks because it must save face.
Their calculation is to take their time, to prepare, and to employ their surrogates who are designed to execute these actions and to absorb the cost so that they don't have to. So I do think that it is very likely that it occur, and I don't think we'll have too much longer to wait.
Lawmakers are keeping their eye on the latest developments, especially Iran's threats to strike Israel's civilian population.
Hopefully this can be contained, but yes, in the event, I agree with the Israelis, in the event that Hezbollah or Iran strikes the Israeli population, Israel should respond disproportionately.
Greenway adds Iran's nuclear missile power continues to escalate, going from 500 centrifuges at the end of the Trump administration to now more than 7,000.
They already have delivery systems capable of ranging Israel and most of Europe and are working on an ICBM as we speak without penalty or cost. In fact, we're allowing them access to resources to cover the cost of their defense, terrorism, and their nuclear program, and all of it is horrifically backfired.
If Israel is attacked, some lawmakers say the U.S. should respond forcefully.
if it were up to me, and you keep this up, you keep trying to slaughter the Israelis, attack American shipping in the Red Sea through the Houthis, we're going to blow your oil refineries up.
Many are also concerned with attacks from Iranian cells on U.S. soil. National security experts say individuals who despise the United States are already here due to the current administration's open border policy.
The open border has allowed the infiltration of known terrorists, including those from Iran and affiliated states. And we've seen recently as this week unsealed arrest documents against Pakistanis acting on behalf of Iran to assassinate former government officials, including President Trump and others.
National security experts say that there's also a threat from Iran in the upcoming U.S. elections. The Office of National Intelligence released a report warning of Iran putting out false information, such as on social media sites, in an attempt to influence the presidential election. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCaul calls the report troubling. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, now to the weather. While Debbie is no longer a hurricane or even a tropical storm, it does remain a rainmaker. From the Carolinas to Vermont, the remnants of Debbie are causing heavy rain, flooding, and even tornadoes. Thousands of people trying to fly in or out of the Northeast are facing extensive delays or cancellations. This weekend will be the last of Debbie's impact on the U.S. after making landfall in Florida on Monday. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including close to the finish line. One of the Catholic chaplains in the Paris Games gives us his highlights from the Summer Olympics. And an Olympic sport that is breaking a leg. We have the details. Olympic sport debuted today in Paris, and you could almost say it's breaking news. Breaking, short for breakdancing, took center stage at the Olympics. The dancing style was made popular back in the 1970s and 80s. I remember it well, and it drew massive crowds. Ami Yuasa of Japan took home the first ever gold medal handed out in the event. The men's competition kicks off tomorrow. Look at her go. All right, well, the Paris Olympics are winding down. The final events and closing ceremony are set for Sunday. U.S. swim star Katie Ledecky, a graduate of a Catholic high school outside of the nation's capital, will be one of the flag bearers for Team USA. Ledecky won 4 medals in the Paris Olympics, and she is now the most decorated U.S. women's Olympian of all time. Nick Mead helped the U.S. win gold in men's 4 rowing and the first medal for the United States in that event since the 1960 Games in Rome. And we turn now to Brother James Hayes, one of the Catholic chaplains at the Paris Olympics, and he joins us now from the Olympic Village. Brother Jim, great to be with you again. So with the Games winding down, what are some of your favorite memories from the 2024 Olympics?
It's been a very varied, very rich experience, I must admit. So many vivid, memorable moments that I've been able to experience here. I think, first of all, just the fraternal atmosphere and mutual respect and joy that we've been able to share between all the chaplains of the different faiths. That's something that has really, really moved me. And I think it's been a very powerful witness as well. Obviously, in the world today, in certain countries, in my own country, where I was brought up, Great Britain, there are certain tensions at the moment, even in France as well. And to be able to perhaps give a witness to a different way of relating to people who are different from ourselves, it's been a privilege to be part of that. Specific things, I'd have to signal out the liturgies that we've been able to celebrate in a parish church just next to the Olympic Village. We've been offering daily mass, morning and evening. And when I've been on duty, I've been able to join in and help the singing with a guitar and lead the singing myself. And that's been a real privilege. I've actually helped on a couple of Sunday evening masses with members of Team USA.
I do want to ask you this. As you know, there's been a lot of controversy this Olympics. I'm wondering how that has affected the athletes, if at all, and what kind of guidance you've given them during this time.
I think once the opening ceremony was done and dusted and the dust settled, as it were, afterwards, I think everyone in the village, the athletes obviously in particular, were focused. They got their game faces on, as it were, and they were focused on their preparations for their events. And we were doing our best to provide spiritual support as part of a global package that the village was providing for them. Obviously, they had their own physios, their own nutritionists, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what's been refreshing is that there is a greater awareness and understanding nowadays for sports people, high performance sports people, how their spiritual lives form part of that overall holistic sense of well-being that they need to be able to perform at the highest level.
Yeah. What were your thoughts when you saw some of the athletes giving glory to God for their wins? We saw a lot of those images over the past couple of days.
It's been very powerful. I must admit, personally, what's actually been all the more moving has been the interviews with people who haven't performed to the way they would have hoped, and yet in their interviews have made reference to their faith and have said that I know God will help me through this, and that my value as a person isn't defined by my level of performance, but by the love of God that he has for me, and that will never change.
Yeah, and I imagine over the next a few days, it's going to be sort of bittersweet for you as everything wraps up. What are some of your fondest memories, and what's on your agenda from here?
Well, before I finish with a few fondest memories, I've actually got the chance to come back. I'm having a week off, but I'll be coming back for the Paralympics. So I'll be working with the chaplaincy team here for that as well, the end of August, beginning of September. Probably my favorite memory is of a time of prayer we had here with the other chaplains, because we've as well as having our daily mass, we've also got times of ecumenical prayer with our Orthodox and Protestant brothers and sisters. And one day there were 3 athletes that came in just as we were about to start prayer. And they said, "Can we pray with you?" And we said, "Yeah, come and join us." And they actually then took the lead during that time of prayer.
That's really beautiful. Brother Jim, thank you so much for coming on again and sharing all this with us. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, message sent. Millions of members of the Knights of Columbus receive a big request from Pope Francis. Plus, the big papal tour, 1 month, 6 countries. We have the itinerary. Sends a message to the Supreme Convention of the Knights of Columbus in Canada. He praised the Knights' efforts to form men of faith and family, saying their commitment has helped many people grow in maturity. He also thanked the Knights for their efforts to renovate the Baldacchino in St. Peter's Basilica and entrusted them to the protection of the Virgin Mary. Well, finally tonight, a year after his last trip to Marseille, France, Pope Francis will make 2 apostolic journeys in September. One will be the longest of his pontificate. Anthony Johnson from EWTN's Vatican Bureau has more.
After the traditional slowdown of activities in July and August, Pope Francis is ready to speed things up in September. He has an ambitious travel schedule, 1 month, 6 countries. The first will be to Asia and the Southeast Pacific from September 2nd to the 13th, followed by another apostolic trip to Luxembourg and Belgium from September 26th to the 29th.
Well, the Pope will be traveling internationally in September for the first time in a year. In part, it's remarkable even that he's traveling at all, because he had to cancel his planned trip last November to Dubai for the United Nations Climate Conference because of respiratory problems. And of course, we know he uses a wheelchair.
The first leg of the Asia trip will be in Indonesia, which has the largest Muslim population in the world. For the Pope, it will be an opportunity to pursue one of his main goals, dialogue with various religions, especially Islam. Papua New Guinea will be the next stop on the itinerary. It is a country known for its biodiversity as well as its vulnerability to the effects of climate change. Protection of the environment and creation are signature issues of the Holy Father's pontificate. The Pope's next stop is the country with the highest percentage of Catholics outside of the Vatican, Timor-Leste, also called East Timor. From there, the Pope's final destination will be a stark contrast.
Right. Well, Singapore is not an obvious stop, except perhaps for this Pope, because it's only about 6% Catholic. But this Pope has made a priority of visiting, going to the margins and beyond of the Catholic world. He really places a priority in visiting non-Catholic countries. And so Singapore has only a Catholic minority. It's one of the Asian tigers, one of the economies in Asia that's become very wealthy and very successful over the last decades.
2 weeks after returning to the Vatican, Pope Francis will leave again for his 46th apostolic journey, and for the first time, he will visit Luxembourg and Belgium.
Well, Luxembourg and Belgium are both historically, traditionally Catholic countries, but they become very secular over the last decades. Mass attendance among Catholics is in the single digits. So that's one issue. The challenge of reviving or preserving the Catholic faith in traditional Catholic countries, especially in Europe, is something that not only Pope Francis but also his predecessors have addressed.
Belgium is a country that's been at the forefront of the legalization of euthanasia. It was the second country in the world to legalize the practice. In 2014, it legalized euthanasia for minors. The church in Belgium has certainly protested these moves, but over the years, at least one Belgian bishop has suggested that the church's teaching that euthanasia is an intrinsic evil is too simple an answer that leaves no room for discernment. This is a point of tension because the church under Pope Francis has reaffirmed its opposition to euthanasia, an important issue that the Holy Father could address during his visit to the country. In Rome, Anthony Johnson, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.